It's not part of my presentation, but I've been very, very happy and impressed with some of the things I'm hearing. A lot of birth for social justice and equity issues here, which is the foundation of the labor movement. Things like hydrogen we're extremely interested in, afforestation and reclaiming natural systems. Conservation values run very, very deep in the labor movement and in the working class, and so it's kind of a natural home for us. So here's the first slide. Climate change is a social justice problem. It's huge. It's everywhere. The bottom is part of a resolution that passed at the AFL-CIO convention in 2017. And this lays out our view a little bit of where the social justice problem in climate change lies. And because workers and communities of color and low-income people suffer more from climate change. So that's a social justice problem. Who's at risk? Everybody, everywhere. We know that. And that means that everybody's got a piece of this fight. This guy, he's one of us. He's a worker. He's a little bit stuck in the middle there. He's got, you see the smokestacks on the right. You see the wind turbines throughout. And the question is, how do we take this person and move him into a space where he can support his family, where the community is well funded, and we're cleaning up our environment? It's a tough problem. It's not an easy problem. The solutions seem so obvious. Technically, they're obvious. Socially and politically, they're not so obvious. Well, these guys first they want their picture to be a little more focused. Second, they would like environment, equity, and opportunity. These are construction workers, right? The hard hat guys. And they're interested in this opportunity. How do we get there? Here's what I'm going to say to you. Climate is a social justice problem. We need more social justice to move faster and solve the climate crisis. There was a little bit of discussion earlier about, well, is the Green New Deal too ambitious? Can we do all this at once? I believe, we in the labor movement believe, that you can't do it without social justice. We talk about just transition, which is a phrase that came out of the labor movement in talking about the energy transition. Just transition is not a list of things we want, a list of demands. It's a theory of change. It's how you go faster. It's how you do it with more equity. Just transition. If you look, and Gene was up, we see where climate is on the Democratic side, but look where it is on all registered voters. If you start talking about healthcare and the economy, education, things like that, if we can create a positive vision that the new economy is going to be good for people, that it's going to pay family supporting wages, the best vision of social equity is for somebody to be able to support their family and to be able to live in the kind of community that they want to live in. So when we think about how to move things, we think about the issues that are pocketbook issues that we know people want to deal with. Working people have got the short end of the stick in this country for 40 years every time there's a big change. I'm an auto worker from Detroit. I started at General Motors in 1976 and had a front row seat for that train wreck. My own home plant closed in 1993. It's bad. You have families break up. You have suicides. You have alcoholism. Flint and Detroit used to be the two best places for people under 35 to live. A little closer, Chip says. That's the only time I've been, first time in a long time I've been asked to speak up, not down. So if you're a worker and working people have been getting the short end of the stick for a long time, you're scared. You want to hold on to what you have. This is labor share in the income. You can see what's happened, right? That's a huge decrease. Federal Reserve. I'm not going to read them to you. 4 in 10 Americans can't cover $400, right? That's not us. That's not the people in this room. But imagine being in that spot. Something happens, you can't come up with $400. I could spend $400 tomorrow if I wanted to, right? No big deal. Not for 40% of families. Separation, right? This is what happened. The political tide turned against workers. Productivity is way up, but wages are not way up. That's a bad deal, right? People aren't getting their fair share. Unions. I'm here to tell you that if you want to move faster on climate change, you got to support unions, right? You can see unions go down, share of income going to the top 10% is up. Now, this is a slide from Pew that shows where the largest wage increases were 2000 to 2015. It's where the fossil fuel guys are. The fossil fuel guys provide really well-paying, family-supporting jobs. And you can't beat something with nothing. And unfortunately, the renewable energy industry is not there now. We're trying to change that. We think offshore wind is our big chance to change that. We're going to find out what happens. Whether it's going to be this kind of push and pull that working people have to take a cut in their standard of living for the clean energy economy, or are we going to be able to make family-supporting jobs? LIUNA, big supporter of pipelines, also a big supporter of renewable energy. Unfortunately, they don't get enough renewable energy work because the industry doesn't want to run with high pay and union representation and worker voice. IBEW, one of the most powerful political unions in the country. This is from 2009 here. Strategic Challenge of Energy Expansion, Renewable Energy. National Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee rolls out new green jobs curriculum, 2009. Here's the very next page in that same newsletter. Is low road the downside of renewable energy manufacturing? That's a problem if you want to make political change and people aren't sure whether they're going to have to take a big pay cut to make that change. The labor movement's answer has been just transition. Obviously, I said what we thought, right? It's things that are just, but it's also a theory of change. You cannot define justice without talking to the people who are being affected. So social dialogue is a necessary component of just transition. This is the International Labor Organization in Geneva. They've worked on this quite a bit. This slide talks a little bit about what it is. There's social dialogue, there's macro stuff, there's social stuff, and there's a process, right? There's a lot of good material from the ILO. There's a 15-page guidebook that is outstanding on how you do this. This is the language we got in the Paris Accord. I'm going to start rushing. Here's where we need to go. These are the mine workers. If we cannot fund the pensions for mine workers that did dirty, dangerous jobs to put energy into our economy for 100 years, we have no shot at just transition. They have tried. They have testified before Congress. They have done civil disobedience and been arrested over and over. There's their problem right there. Mitch McConnell, supposed friend of coal miners, won't put it through. The law is already there. The words are there. All we need to do is fund it. They have a funding source. You might think that the mine workers maybe, aren't that progressive of an organization. Despite what you might think about them defending their members' jobs, they are one of the most progressive organizations in the history of the United States. 1890, they were founded at a time when everything was segregated in our society, but not the United Mine Workers. They never had segregation. They never allowed dual segregated locals. And look what this guy said. In the union mine, there's no race or this or that. It was just one race of people. The houses were the same, the pay scale was the same, and everybody was treated the same. He wasn't used to that coming from Alabama. Attack on the labor movement. Right to work movement comes out of racist, segregationist Texas, who didn't like the idea that the labor movement thought everybody should be the same. Union repression. 58 million workers would join a union. Unions have been declining in density for several decades because of a huge campaign against unions. Because the people on the right know, maybe in ways that the Democrats don't appreciate, that the key to a successful progressive coalition is a strong labor movement. So this is this article, right? Grover Norquist knows it. He says if we do 10 more Wisconsins, the Democratic Party's out of it. But here's what happens after right to work, right? This is Democratic vote share. In a right to work county is the orange line. The non-right to work county is the teal line. Dem share goes down. There is no, despite what we heard from a couple speakers here, there is no coalition that is possible at the national level to move on climate change that does not include having Democrats in power. And if the labor movement gets taken off the map, Democrats cannot maintain durable power. Oh my gosh, I'm almost out of time. There's the union difference, right? Unions educate their members about issues, they vote. And the president plus 11 to the population, in the Senate plus 13, in the US House plus 17. Look at the turnout, 10% higher turnout. We talk to our members, we engage them, they come out, they vote Democrat. Here's the only two things you need to know about this. Union membership is sloping up in the state Democratic vote share. Union membership sloping up on liberal policies in states. That's the effect of unions. What can you do? The other thing besides supporting unions is to attack the assault on the right to vote. We've heard this a couple of times. It's literally insane that Republicans want to keep people from voting. And they don't want to keep all people from voting. They want to keep poor people and people of color from voting. And it's an attack on our democracy, and it's holding us back. I could have put a whole sling of graphics up there. You saw what John Lewis said, because the Supreme Court is the one that eviscerated the Voting Rights Act. We've had all these removals of voting rights. And look what happened in North Carolina. Are you kidding me? 80% decline in African American votes. We could be winning North Carolina. I feel we should be winning North Carolina. In fact, the AFL-CIO and LCV have a great partnership in North Carolina, and we're going to get there. If all this comes true, if you all think that you support the union movement in terms of bolstering our democracy, where does it land? That same IBW, right? This is their hall. And it's really cute the way they spelled their name out on their roof in the solar panels. They have put over $250 million into training people all over the country to do solar. If you become an IBW electrician, you will learn solar as a part of your journeyman apprenticeship. The local in my town, Detroit, Local 58, net zero. You know what? Local 58 disconnected themselves from the natural gas system. They don't need it. Here, San Jose, net zero building, right? That's a big, big deal. Building stock is one of the huge opportunities in this country for us, and it's a finance problem, and it's a power problem, right? Because the real estate barons don't want to go there. Here's what else you get. We are up for this. If you look at all this stuff, no poverty, zero hunger, number 8, decent work and economic growth, right? If you want to talk about gender equity, you want to eliminate a gender pay gap, get yourself a union contract. There is zero gender pay gap in any union contract. It's an enforceable contract under law, and it says you do job X, you get pay Y. Doesn't matter your race, your color, your creed, you do job X, you get pay Y. There's no gender wage gap in the labor movement. And here's the last thing you get. This was the first time that the AFL-CIO passed a climate resolution at its convention. This resolution passed unanimously with the support of all the labor unions. IBEW, LIUNA, all of them, unanimous support. What I showed you before was a whereas. These are the resolved. Look at the one on bold. AFL-CIO believes the United States Congress should enact comprehensive energy and climate legislation. If the labor movement can get to a place where we know that there are good family-supporting jobs, if we all work together, there's a bright future out there for us. We can do it together. I'm counting on you guys. We're going to be there for you. Thank you so much.